Picture a lady who works at a department store as a sales associate. She's hardworking, organized, pays attention to details, is customer centric, and is good at her job overall. But for the past decade, she's been functioning as a sales associate without any form of promotion whatsoever. Every morning, she gets up, and shows out for work without it translating to actual tangible scalability at work. And you're thinking probably that the bosses must be mean or wicked to have seen all of this potential and not harness it. Well, maybe. But on a deeper note, we came to see that one, she was the first person in her family in a very long time who had gainful, stable employment. Two, she came from a system that watered down efforts to the point where she had to outperform. Three, due to the past applications that she made where she got a no, it reinforced the belief system that told her that she isn't enough. And you're again wondering maybe why her belief system or what she thought about a particular situation translated or had an effect on the opportunities that she had on the outside. Well, we're going to unravel that in this video. Please stay to the end because the gem is actually at the last point. So what we're talking about today is limiting belief systems. Right, limiting belief systems. From the dictionary, and I'm just going to read it out. It says that limiting belief systems are false, self-imposed mental barriers that are often formed by past experiences or fear that we accept as truth, restricting our potential, confidence, and opportunities. Did you see that? Opportunities. So limiting belief systems are actually self-imposed mental barriers. Keyword. They come from past experiences or fear. Another keyword, and we accept them as true. The third keyword, and it restricts our potential, confidence, and opportunities. The fourth key words. That is how much of limiting belief system effects that we have in our lives when we do nothing about them. And I'm going to share the effect of it, really try to understand how it affects the opportunities that we have. I'm going to break down what the effect of the limiting belief system is and how that affects how we show up for ourselves, what we think about ourselves, how we feel fulfilled in ourselves, and the opportunities that come to us. So when we are born, we are basically a blank slate. There is nothing there. It's as clear as this board, blank slate. But from different things that we face or encounter as we grow older, especially in the formative years, that's between 0 to 8 years, different imprints start to form on our minds, on our souls, and these things affect who we later become as adults and how we think and process things. So if a person came from a system that, especially in the case of this lady, that watered down efforts, where they told her that she wasn't enough, or where they told her that she wasn't enough directly or indirectly, this could then be the theme of the person's life, where they think this could then be the theme of a person's life where they think, I am not enough. So this then becomes this, where a blank slate gets all of this imprints on it that then thinks that I am not enough. So this blank slate then becomes this. This becomes the major imprint in the person's mind and soul. And this is the energy that it put out into the world system. And I've said it in a few of my videos that what you dwell on the most is what you actually manifest on the outside. So if you think and if you dwell on fearful, negative thoughts, these are the experiences that you birth on the outside. And if you think that you are enough, you are capable, you are able to do it, you have what it takes within you, and if you believe in your mind completely that even if you come across an obstacle or a situation that negates who you believe that you are at your core, you are able to surmount it. This is the experience that you birth on the outside. And this is how the limiting belief system actually affects a person. So it could build a fortress in the mind of the person where they feel a certain way about situations, and it affects their worldview and how they see the world. Do you see the world as a dark, negative place where it's really hard for people to thrive and all you just have to do is get by and be glad that you did? Or do you see the world as a place where, despite the odds, despite the things that are present in the world system, you are able to surmount and you have what it is to live a fulfilled, happy, full, and joyful life? So that would actually determine how you show up for yourself, and that's how much belief systems can affect the situations that come our way, the opportunities that come our way, and how we handle difficult or negative situations. Now, there are different things that can actually form these belief systems in our minds, and we're going to look at them. But the first thing is past experiences. A person's past experience actually determines how they think and the thought process. So if a person has a past experience where they feel like or past experiences and past failures where they feel like they had tried different things but it just wasn't panning out as it should, as in the case of this lady who was a sales associate in this department store. She had tried different things, she had tried to apply, and she also had this upbringing that watered down efforts, and she was a people pleaser. So she had tried to apply but got a no and rejections, and these past failures, which she termed as her own, influenced how she showed up for herself and what she thought about herself. And that's the mistake that she made in this case, where she was unable to separate the events from her identity. She took the events that were happening and made it her own, because she's been told all her life that this is who she is and she doesn't amount to much, she doesn't measure up. These things do not necessarily have to be said verbatim, but they could be said through actions, through dispositions of people that, went ahead, people that were supposed to cover her, people that were supposed to lead her, people that were supposed to protect her. And because of all of these things, it had formed a fortress in her mind, an imprint on her soul that caused her to give off this energy that she just wasn't enough. The second thing is conditioning from the environment. Again, just like the past failures, the conditioning in the environment or in the society where a person is from, wherever you're from, it could be the family, it could just be somewhere that, you're from, your state, or the things that are common in that territory. So the conditioning that comes from a typical mindset that is seen in that space can also form imprints in the person's soul and build a fortress where a person then has this limiting belief systems that then build and foster negative thinking, negative thought processes, negative outcomes, even the actions that they take. It's almost as if they're self-sabotaging because of these limiting belief systems. So that is what conditioning from the environment does. Another thing that could form these limiting systems in your mind are the people that you surround yourself with. The people that you surround yourself with could either make or mar how you think. So if you surround yourself with people that feed that life source in you completely, it would break down any limiting belief that you may be forming or creating in your mind. But if you surround yourself with people that feed into the dysfunction, it would only enable the limiting belief system. So for me, if I were to address any limiting belief system in my mind, after doing the things that I would share with you later on in the video, I would surround myself with people that can speak power and life and light into my being and just give the right energy, as opposed to people that would speak negativity, people that would make me feel small as a result. Because if I think small, then that's the way people are going to see me. If I put out an energy that I am not enough, if I put out an energy that I'm not able to cater to my kids, or I'm not able to function in the capacity that I should function in, and this is just abstract now, I don't have kids, but if I put that out there, then it's going to be my reality. I would struggle, and that's limiting belief systems literally puts you in a survival mode. it puts you in a survival mode where you are barely getting by or just getting by. So you are constantly struggling. You are not thriving, and thriving doesn't necessarily mean money or wealth. Money is at the bottom, is at the base of this pyramid. The apex is feeling peace to the uttermost, where you just know that I'm okay with where I am, I'm okay with what I'm doing, I'm okay with the people around me, I'm okay and contented with what I have. So that is what limiting belief systems do. It basically puts you in a survival mode where you are surviving, and as opposed to you taking steps upwards. And while you may be thinking, oh no, I'm probably okay with where I am career wise, it is more of a mindset thing. And I believe that the overall goal should be peace, because when you are productive and fruitful, it usually stems from a place of peace. It's like a reversible equation where this is peace and this is productivity. So the peace would give way to productivity, and the productivity would also give way to peace. That is another way, that is another thing that could form the limiting belief systems in our minds. Another thing is the negative feedbacks that you get from people. So if you get negative feedbacks a lot, as opposed to getting positive feedbacks, while we understand constructive criticism and we understand some criticisms are just outrightly destructive, but if you get negative feedbacks in general a lot and you do not address it, then it's a problem. You want people that would not necessarily enable you, even in delusion, or just a delusional state where you feel very good with yourself. We're not talking about grandiosity. We're talking about negative feedback that is continuous. It creates a loop system in your mind where you think that this is the norm, and it creates a system in you that slowly builds a fortress. Again, we're going with fortress in this video for limiting belief systems. It builds a fortress where we have the foundation. Those are things that were created in your formative years, and it's grown over the course of the years with rejection. It's grown over the course of the years with the experiences that you had, the past failures. So for the purpose of this session, I'm just going to put here the foundation, which is the formative years. That's 0 to 8 years. Sorry, let me just clean that out. That's 0 to 8 years. And then this signifies most of your adolescent adult age, right here, where these are the bricks. I'll call it the bricks that form the building, and these are things from your adult age, and these are other things that build from your continuing relationships and all of that. So I'm going to call this continuing bricks. You decide how tall you want this fortress to be by the work that you're willing to do to stop and break free from a limiting belief system. So this could go as tall as you want it to, or it could go as short as you want it to when you put a cap to it. So for the purpose of this session, this lady, who is our case study, puts a cap here. And this is where the continuing bricks form. So this is most of the adult years, right? And these are continuing relationships, and that's why they're continuing bricks. So this is the foundational years, things from the upbringing. These are things from past failures, from societal conditioning, the environment, and these are continuing bricks from continuing relationships and stimulus that you expose yourself to. Stimulus energy that you expose yourself to. So the experiences while growing up, that's the other thing that could form a limiting belief system. The experiences while growing up in the foundational years, which are 0 to 8 years, where this is the part where there's character formation. And at this point, a child's brain grows very fast and develops very fast, and by age 5 it's developed foundationally. For the most part, right, it's probably reached its foundational maximum capacity of development. I mean, it continues to grow until about age 25, but by age 5, the neural pathways that have been formed foundationally are there and present. So whatever thing is passed, or whatever traits, behavior, attitude, whatever is said directly or indirectly to this child within this age range can actually affect who they become. So when we think about training a child, or being there for a child, or trying to raise a child in the way that they should go, you're not doing it necessarily for how they are right now. You are doing it for the adults that they become in the future. So the foundational age of 0 to 8 years is the time that you really want to speak as much life and correct the child in the right way, so that they build the right social, emotional regulation as well, and mental strength that they need, to be who they're supposed to be. How can you tell that you're operating from a place of limiting beliefs, where you are operating from struggle mode or survival mode? And again, like I mentioned, money is typically the basic, it's at the base of it. The overall sense of thriving and coming out of limiting belief systems is peace. That's the number one index of if you are thriving or in survival mode. And one of the ways is when a part of you can tell that you have what it takes to meet or get a certain thing, but you still do not feel qualified. And this doesn't necessarily mean in career, in all walks of life. If as a parent, as a career person, as a friend, as a girlfriend, as a boyfriend, as a husband, as a wife, when you feel like you have what it takes to be the best version of you that you can be, but you still do not feel qualified, then that is a sign that you are operating from a limiting belief system. And the typical trait, or the typical feature of this person or of this sign, is just the thinking that you can't. Where you keep thinking you can't, or you are not enough, then that's the sign of it. Another sign that a person is operating in survival mode as a result of limiting belief systems is when a person is more conscious of the environment that they are in more than their abilities. When you're more conscious of what is going on around you, the situations, the limiting situations in the environment, the obstacles, even the role, than your abilities. So you should be so in tune with yourself that no matter what happens on the outside, you're up for it. So that's another sign that you're operating from a limiting belief system. Another sign is if you have a proclivity to entertain or accommodate the negative, with questions popping up like, what if I can't? What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And what you see, especially in this case, is pessimism at the maximum, as opposed to optimism. Optimism isn't feigned ignorance, or ignorance of the things that could actually happen, but optimism is believing that regardless of the things that happen, it will always line up for you and you would always know what to do. So if you have a proclivity to entertain this and sit on it, dwell on these thoughts of negativity, then it's another sign that you are operating from a limiting belief system and living in survival mode or struggle mode. When you also constantly question yourself and your capability, then you are operating from this place, because there are things that you would obviously not know, right? We all do not know everything, but we grow. And that's the difference between having a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is okay with the status quo, but a growth mindset is willing to learn and is willing to see, okay, how can this be done better? What can be done to improve the situation of this particular thing? So when you constantly question who you are, question your capabilities, even when you're functioning already in that role, and you question how you are and if this was even something that was made for you, that's an imposter syndrome. When you do that, you are operating and dealing with a limiting belief system, and the sooner that you address it, the better for you and your overall outlook and peace of mind. And also, when you see yourself as not being enough in whatever capacity, then you are feeding this fortress and strengthening the bricks in your mind by thinking and seeing yourself as not good enough, right? You need to erase the thought process completely that you are not enough. If there is something that you want to do, or if there's a role function that you want to participate or occupy, and you feel like this thing is bigger, the shoes are bigger than your feet can actually take or fit into, if you take it as a room for growth, then that is an optimistic way of looking at it, and that's the right way to put the correct energy into the environment. But if you look at it as you not being enough because the shoe is way bigger than your feet, then you are operating from a belief system that has a power hold in your mind and power hold in your soul. And the sooner that you address that, the sooner you're able to put the right energy and attract the right things to you. You know, science says that the earth is a magnetic field. And I believe it really, because the earth is a magnetic field and you attract the things that you want to attract. And while they say like poles repel and unlike poles attract, for that I disagree, especially in this case. You will attract who you are. You will attract what you are. So if you are a negative, pessimistic person, you will attract negative situations. But if you are optimistic, if you have an aura, an energy that screams positivity, one thing or the other would line up for you and just make it clearer for you. Another sign of a limiting belief is when you compare yourself with others. Comparison to other people is a sign that you are operating from a limiting belief system. Because when you do that, you're not necessarily operating from a place of wisdom. You are operating from a place of folly, because what you are good at, what I'm good at, this person isn't good at, and what she's good at, I'm most likely not good at. Or we are probably both good at it, but she has a flavor, I have my flavor. We bring different essence to it, right? And as surely as science has proven that our fingerprints are completely different, how many people are we in this world? About 8 billion more. And we all have different fingerprints. So why would you think that you bring the same flavor and essence to the same thing? She's good at it, I'm good at it, but our flavors are completely different. So comparison to others would create a limiting system in your mind, a limiting thought process in your mind. And if it is prolonged and continuing, this creates a power hold in your mind and in your soul. And you know, the sooner again that you address it, the better and more fulfilled you feel in life. Another sign of a limiting belief pattern is fear of rejection and fear of failure. Sometimes people, there are different case scenarios. It could be because people came from a place or a family where they had this level of, where there was a threshold for success, and you probably feel like what you are doesn't fit into their definition of success. Remember what I said about the foundational years and also the bricks that have been built from the societal conditioning, and the society includes your family. Your family is part of the society. So if you come from a family, so it's not always a broken family system, it could also be an overachieving family system where they feel like you have a threshold and there's a particular definition of success. And for instance, if for this family the definition for success is to be a professional and succeed at it, so you're either an engineer, a doctor, lawyer, but you decide that you want to go see and take photos of different different spaces, different geographies, different cultures, and that's really what you want to do, and you don't fit into that. If you allow that sink in and sit to the point where there is a power hold in your mind as a result of that, you create a limiting belief system that dictates to you what success is, so that if you aren't performing in a particular way or a particular spectrum, it feels as if you're a failure. So it can also create the benchmark for how you show up for things, because failures are not necessarily a thing to wipe off. Failures, depending on how you look at it. If you look at the glass half full, if you look at the glass half empty, it's completely up to you and how you think. So it could either be a full stop or a comma. If you take failure as a benchmark to, or a springboard to, yeah, you came down when you hit the springs, but you're going higher as a result of that. The lower the spring is, the higher and further you bounce up. So if you take failure to be that, then by all means you will come out of it. But if you're so scared of failure to the point where you do not even try, or scared of rejection to the point where you don't even try, then it's a sign that you are living in survival mode. Now, how do we fix this? The first thing is that you need to be open and ready to receive change. So there are different things that you can do to fix this, but if you do all of these things without proposing in your mind that you're going to be open and ready to receive every necessary change, it would have just been for naught. So you have to be open and ready to receive change in your entire mind, in your entire being, so that you can appropriate these things and make it count. And in all of these things, these systems, either they've been imprinted in your soul foundationally as you grew, or continuing, they usually come as thoughts, and these are typically thoughts that form in the mind. In an earlier video, I mentioned that our minds paint pictures with the words that have been said to us. Our minds paint pictures even with the things that we see. So I mentioned that the audiovisual content is really very beneficial and really very useful, and does a lot, right, for the systems, more than just even the audio. Because when I speak and you see me, and then there are visual things to buttress the point, it makes it easy for the mind to paint pictures. So when a person or a child grows with a particular negative word being said, or witnesses visual a visually stimulating thing that is negative, this can actually create an imprint in the person's mind by forming words or thought process, and it starts to affect how they think. So the limiting belief system is embedded, or is formed as a result of thought processes. That's what creates the limiting belief systems. So when you want to fix it, what you got to do is catch these thoughts. They come as thoughts in your mind as at different points in time. So the first thing is to catch the thoughts. You need to catch the thoughts, and not just catch the thoughts, but recognize them for what they are. And again, I'm just going to refer to my video that I talked about, where I talked about refusing to align with fear. When you catch the thoughts, you recognize them for the things that they are limiting belief systems that have been imprinted into you. Again, because we came as blank slates, this is a blank slate. So this is not you. When you came into this world, you were indeed a blank slate. But as a result of the things that you dealt with, as when you were growing and supposed to go up, you grew with different imprints into your mind and your soul that told you that you aren't enough. And as a result, they feed thoughts and thought processes that enable this system or survival mode. So you recognize them for what they are and separate them from your identity. You are not these thoughts. These are not you, right? So you need to catch them and realize that, oh, this thought is a limiting thought, and I do not align with you because this is not me. So when you do that, you also want to counter the negative thoughts with powerful words. And what I mean by that is, you want to counter these negative thoughts. Yes, they came as thoughts, but you want to counter them with empowering words. And even if they didn't come as thoughts, you might say, oh no, this person said this thing to me. This boss actually said this to me, that I am not fit for this role. You heard it, but your mind took it in and painted a picture with it. And because you aligned with those words, they created a negative thought process in your mind. So the way to counter every thought, either an ingrained or imprinted thought that comes from that came randomly into your mind, or a word that was spoken directly at you, which your mind then took and formed a picture with, you counter it with your own words. You counter it with empowering words that can actually suppress them. And when you do this, you want to engage with the right materials that you need. When you counter those words and do nothing, you are only creating a vacuum in your mind. You are creating a space for more negative words to fill your mind without necessarily addressing anything. So if I were to fix a particular fan, or if I were to fix a particular machine that wasn't working appropriately, and I removed the wrong thing. I removed the part of the machine that wasn't functioning without necessarily replacing it. Do you think that I've actually done or made the machine work? No. All I've done is removed the negative, but the machine doesn't work. So I need to replace it with the right parts, with the right tools, with everything that the machine would need to function as it should. So you need to feel and engage with things that feed who you are and feed your capability, feed your soul, and feeds the right energy into you. When you do this, remember that the people that you surrounded with yourself with, either intentionally or unintentionally, also helps to create a fortress in your mind. Same also, you need the right people to feed and speak the right things into you. People that feed into that power, that divine creative power. We're not talking about feeding into delusion. We're talking about feeding into the right creative power. So you need to surround yourself with people that feed this redefining energy. You want people that would not mar you. And I mean, there's a balance to this thing, but you want people that would not mar you. You do not want people that you don't want to surround yourself with pessimistic, negative people. You do not want to surround yourself with people who don't see your value. You do not want to surround yourself with people who are not appreciative of your essence. So you need to surround yourself with the right people. And if it is too overwhelming, then talk to someone, a trusted person who is healed, supportive, who can speak and reignite the creative energy and fire within you. You want to speak to someone who can reignite the right spirit in you. So that is if it gets too overwhelming for you at any point in time. Someone who is trusted, someone who is healed, and someone who can reignite the right spirit or energy in you. Then another thing that you want to do is silence fear by speaking words of power. The way fear comes, it comes through thoughts. Really, it comes through the things that you think about. It comes through the things that you dwell on, and it comes through your belief system. So you silence the fear by speaking words of power. You can subscribe to our free empowerment tips where we share, as part of the whole package, words of power to put out into your week and to put out into your space and reality. So this is a very important part that a lot of times we do not engage, and that is meditate. So I know that I spoke about meditating when you don't know what to do, meditating for clarity of direction. Now this is meditating to shake off limiting belief systems and build the right fortress and energy in your mind. And how do you do this? You basically take words of power and light, retreat to a quiet space. Even if you don't retreat to a quiet space, you just really need to zone out and repeatedly mutter these words under your breath. Preferably close your eyes and do it as often as you can while your mind paints pictures with the images that those words form. You do it as often as you can, and see how power, again, words of power and words of light. We do this in our community, and if you want me to work with you personally on this, I'm very open to. Just click the link in the bio or in the description, and we do this. This is how you meditate to shake off limiting belief systems, step out of survival mode against the obstacles, hurdles, whatever it may be, whatever system in your mind. This is how you break out of the mold. And in addition to that, you want to write it out. Yes, you want to write it out as much as you can, and not just say it, because sometimes when you don't even feel like it, there might be things that could happen and you don't even feel like uttering a word. And so in that time, you may want to just pull out the journal or wherever you wrote it and stare at it repeatedly without even necessarily saying it. Stare at it repeatedly until you find the energy to speak it out. And when you've done all of these things, the eighth thing, wow, I really shared a lot in this video. The eighth thing that you can do is act on that idea and take a move. So a lot of times we do the work that we want to do on our minds, on how we approach things, on how we show up. We do the work internally and just leave things out there and just, oh, okay, I've done the work. Since I've done it, it will just come to me. But the truth is, if you don't act on it in the immediate, then you give room for that voice and the lie that tells you that you won't measure up to actually kick in again. But when you act on it, even if you get a rejection and you get a no, you know that you acted on it, and you realize that failure is a springboard. The deeper you go down, the higher you bounce back. So when you act on the idea, if you get a yes, it builds a system. It's like building new bricks in a mind that is being renewed, so that you can actually form new experiences and new wins that you can count and strengthen you for the journey ahead. There's a lot that I can say regarding this, but it still would not fit into this one video. I'm very open to training, courses, and I do all of this either on a one-on-one basis as a coach to you if you want a personal experience, or you can join my community on Telegram where we share courses, trainings, and we also have a group for discussions, interactions. You learn from people, and it's also a way to network and see what other people are doing and how they are appropriating the things that they are learning in their lives, learning from their successes, learning from what they are not so successful about, and helping you in general to build a community. So that's it for this session. I really hope and pray that this helped you, and it is a start, a right start in a direction to breaking out of the mold, breaking the mold and breaking out of the mold. And you're able to move out of the limiting belief systems, out of survival mode, into, hold on, into flourishing. Yes, into flourishing and overall peace of mind. So that's it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.